researching and very cerebral gathering of facts is a very key aspect of writing films, especially with kind of taking pride or are taking cognizance of a social issue.
I try to make my films as simple as possible. My storytelling as straightforward. I do that because I feel that films must communicate. There's no point making something that is either didactic or abstract because it satisfies the artist within me. The artist within me is satisfied most by people understanding my work.
The same way that I don't get to do Masan, even when I'm a South Indian, but because I became a Banarsi, because I completely surrendered to it. And hence I thought I'm slightly worthy of making a film.
You can choose to work in any field and you can contribute to the to the development of the nation or to the consciousness of people or to whatever. तो इतने सारे इश्यूज हैं कि हर कहानी में इशू है, ऐसा भी नहीं है कि चुनना पड़ेगी अच्छा ये. सो इसलिए मुझे ये लगता है कि पहले कहानी, किरदार आ जाएं, उसके बाद वो जिस शहर के हैं, जिस उम्र के हैं, जिस जेंडर के हैं, जिस दौर के हैं, उसके साथ साथ अपने आप उसके इश्यूज आ ही जाएंगे.
A filmmaker can never be as effective and as right in putting forth a social issue as an activist can do. Some people, some politicians, some activists, they are great orators. They talk for 3 hours and they open your mind to a totally a new world. He cannot do that. He's not good at that. His strength is telling a story, and through the story, you make the people empathize with those who are undergoing that suffering or who are part of a struggle, and you just make the viewer empathize with them and realize that this is happening to one group of people in the same world that I am living in, and just make him think that what he could do to better the situation.
With something like a thappad, it's very author backed. Nahi maar sakta. Period. Now build your story on top of that. Your conflict is very solid because there is no two ways about that. But in any other thing, your conflict can move, can change. You'll need to put some weight behind it so that can make a little bit of a difference in the process.
No film, if it wants to convey a social message, it should not lead with a social message. It should lead with a strong story. It should lead with strong craft of every department of filmmaking. क्योंकि क्या होता है कि, और ये मैं अपना एक्सपीरियंस बता रहा हूँ, I very quickly switch off if somebody is trying to preach. because वो उसके लिए बहुत सारी चीजें, उसके लिए op-eds हैं, उसके लिए किताबें हैं, उसके लिए, और वो कहीं ज्यादा impactful हैं.
The message was always there. That was there from the writing itself. So every scene, it's there in a small way. Sometimes you kind of have to how you blow the dust off a book ka cover and you see the title. So utna karna padta hai some scenes mein, but some of them it's pretty visible what we are trying to say.
Think like a filmmaker before you think like an activist. The activism and all is a byproduct of the conversations that your film opens up. You cannot wear activism on your sleeve and make a film because of that. You will have things to say, but they are all part of the larger storytelling syntax, your craft.
I have a quite research bent. Even when we are pursuing stories, I tend to draw upon a lot from reality. I feel fiction just, trivializes a story.
Research is something which I spend the most time on while writing a script. Always good to have a solid research team. Not all research you can do on your own.
The research goes from obviously, reading everything around the subject to perhaps me trying to arrange for physical one-on-one interviews with the people who actually have been a part of a certain culture or subject or theme that you want to explore. Like if it's about gender violence, it's one thing to read reams and reams of research done by academics on a certain crime. It is very important to look at it sociologically from the perspective, or legally, or academically. It is very important to understand that, because that helps you understand the meta-ness of how you're positioning your subject. But it is also extremely integral to understand how a certain crime or a certain issue impacting the individual herself.
Honestly, I did a little research on only two things. One of them was about violence, about not violence, about women who may have been in these situations. Because again, I haven't seen this in my life ever, with my mom or my sisters or my cousins. And also, there's a reason to it. I won't say that I'm coming from an exceptionally peaceful, decent, amazing family. It's because no one talks about it. So even if your Masi is getting beaten up or if your aunt is getting beaten up, you don't know about it because it's not spoken of. So I had no understanding of how a woman would actually feel about that. We can assume that she will feel crushed. We can assume that she'll get angry. But when I actually spoke to a few friends who were willing enough to tell me about their own lives and about people close to them, I realized that it is just a huge feeling of shame, you know that someone can hit you like that and you're still expected to get up the next day and do everything in the same manner.
So those are the two broad levels of research I generally try to do. One is the emotional makeup of the characters and the milieu of the characters, and two is just the authenticity of the place we are setting our film or show in.
You can read, understand. So I would ideally say, if you want to take up an issue and make a film out of it, go there, be in the ground, live there. You don't need to take part in any of. If it's a protest, you don't need to take part of the protest. If it's a struggle, you don't need to be part of the strike. But you live with those people for some time, because this is the first time you're making a movie and you get only one chance to make your first movie. You will get 100 more chances to make 100 movies, but you get only one chance to make your first movie. More than anything else, it's important to get it right.
मसान में हमने खुद की थी research. So मसान के process में तब anyway, I mean, we couldn't afford to hire a research person. We were very, very new in this world of cinema. And we didn't have any budget. हम लोग ट्रेन से ही जाते थे बनारस और वहाँ हॉस्टल में रुकते थे. मेरे यूनिवर्सिटी के हॉस्टल में गेस्ट हाउस में हमने कमरा ले लिया था.
So it was like a research trip that we both took on, and for 1 month we kind of understood everything. We met a lot of scholars, we met a lot of pundits who actually came with a lot of books to us to talk about the genesis of how of Banaras and of the Dome Ghat, of death, and there's a lot of philosophical discourse that we went through, and we kind of poured it all in, and that's when Varun wrote the screenplay. The classic images of the cycle rickshaw, and I realized that there were a lot of these e-rickshaws. I said, I'm not going to show cycle rickshaws. I'm not going to make them seem like this third world, whatever it is, because the times are changing. I'll show them using Facebook. I'll show them using, petrol, diesel, auto rickshaws that were flying over there, and they would understand, and they would also give it back when the urban apathy showed up. There's a scene in Masan where these two urban trekkers who come to Banaras, and they're having conversation, and they be sitting right there, issuing a ticket to them, and they talk in English, and they suddenly switch to her, and then they switch to Hindi. So this assumption is that small town, they don't speak English at all, and that she gets annoyed, and then she doesn't give them a ticket. And I thought that's the sort of assertion that, so be it.
How to show the ghats with authenticity, because we were shooting on these cremation ghats in Banaras. We had to recreate the ghats. एक तो रिसर्च होती है जो कि सिर्फ जगह की ऑथेंटिसिटी की बात है, दूसरा है इमोशंस की ऑथेंटिसिटी. सो दैट वाज again, for that we spent a lot of time talking to youngsters in Banaras. What are their aspirations? How do they view, for example, how do they view sex? How do they view employment? How do they view caste? What are their opinions on intercaste marriages? क्योंकि हम उम्र में अब थोड़े बड़े हो गए हैं, तो वो जनरेशन जो हम फिल्म में दिखा रहे थे, जो Vicky and Shweta were portraying, or even Richa was portraying. So those kind of youngsters, हमारे जमान मतलब अब बोलना पड़ता है अब हमारा जमाना क्योंकि हो गया पुराना. So अब क्या होता है, पहले होता था हर अगली जनरेशन जो है वो 20 साल बाद जो आते थे वो नेक्स्ट जनरेशन बोले जाते थे. आजकल हर नए आईफोन के साथ एक नई जनरेशन आती है. So we are probably 5 generations above the people we were showing. So we had to get into their emotional lives also.
So the choice of a certain narrative, its stress, its politics, its if it's going in a certain direction, that's something that I am going to make a choice of from these multitude of influences which will come from research, which can be obviously which will start from a simple Google search, but that is not that where it ends, because it will entail actually reading a lot of books instead of just Wikipedia pages, and it may involve going out and seeking audience with, for example, the writers of or researchers who have delved in certain areas for very long periods in their own lives, like they have so it will never be one simple Wikipedia research that will, or Google search that will take you there. I think eventually you may want to discard all the research that you have put in place, but you may still want to go and deepen or at least bring more conviction to what you are creating by padding it with research, which you may then want to kind of like discard. And then there is definitely a process of decluttering in between, where you kind of like have to unlearn and forget everything that you have learned so far, and then create something truly from your own emotionality.
Your responsibility as a filmmaker is in making a film and telling a story. And your first, before you start the story, you just identify. You have a clarity on your target audience. See, you don't make a Visaranai and want the regular mainstream theatre goer to come and celebrate and enjoy and come and watch it again and again and again. That film, I don't think anyone would want to watch it a second time other than academic purposes or for some other purpose. It was not meant for the mainstream audiences alone. It was targeting the festival circuit as well. With Asuran, the primary intention with Asuran and Vadachennai, the primary target audience were the regular theatre-going Tamil audiences who come in to celebrate inside the cinemas. So the target audience differentiation makes the writer choose the kind of tools to tell the story.
For a popular film, I need to ensure that my character motivations are a lot more pronounced, and the decision making of the character is a lot more, and in some cases on the nose. So the decision making that I make when I distinguish this when I write for a more film festival film is that those choices then become a little more subtle and more seamless to the character journey. That is not to say that either of these craft choices are not fulfilling for me as an artist. But I do feel that I need to adjust the tonality and the accessibility and the likability of the characters at times, depending on or basis of which vocabulary or which format I'm writing for.
It's like, when you bake a cake for an occasion, versus when you bake a cake because you feel like baking a cake. You know, when you bake it for an occasion, you're very particular about how it should be. You are, trying to make it just right so that whoever you're making it for is extremely happy with it. But when you're baking it because you have the time and you feel like doing it, you're slightly more freer, more funner about it. Both situations have their pros and cons, right? In the situation where you're baking it for someone, the payoff is greater because you're going to either land or you're going to miss. So when you land, you're like, yeah, I've done it, that person is thrilled. Okay, in the earlier situation where you're doing it because you feel like doing it, the payoff is more personal, that I did it, I enjoyed it, it's yummy, and now I'm going to post some Instagram pictures and get a few likes. So I guess it's a little bit about the payoff. When you write about something that is so relatable and something that people connect with because it's very widespread, it's very out there, the payoff that you get in reactions is that much more bigger. Not to say that when you write a romance, even for the appreciation that movies get for just being a good movie in themselves are extremely fulfilling. But at the heart of it, if there's a message, and people have yet gone and watched your movie knowing that this is one of those message wala movies, then you just feel like, okay, chalo good, you managed something with your skill and talent to try and put both these worlds together. While writing, many times you are making decisions based on how different it is, because you have to kind of break through the clutter, you have to get your audience, you aspire to say something that's not been said in that way before, because now everything has been said, everyone has said everything there is to say, so the only thing left is to say it in a different way possibly. So that is one of the first guiding forces. But after you've kind of hit upon ki acha, let's do it like this, then the way you go about it is very much guided by your beliefs, what you think is important.
If you come with an argument which is open right from the beginning, okay, this is a film about XYZ, और ये फिल्म के टाइटल में भी है या फिल्म के प्रमोशन में है, you're already choosing the kind of people who will listen to you. वो दूसरे जो आपके सामने जो नहीं सुनना चाहते हैं या जो उस आर्ग्यूमेंट आप एक्चुअली जिनको वो आर्ग्यूमेंट देना चाहते हो, आपने पहले ही अपने पत्ते खोल दिया, आपने रिवील कर दिया कि ये है भाई, मैं तो ये बताने आया हूँ, नहीं सुनेगा वो। आज के टाइम में किसी के पास सुनने के लिए टाइम नहीं है।
Like even in Masan, the film opens with a woman who's watching porn in a small town. It's quite a radical statement. And I've thought, am I doing it just because it's radical? Am I doing it just because it sounds cool to show it on a cinema where this film is going to be seen in France and Germany and all these people, all these places where they will really find it very interesting that a small town Indian woman is watching porn. So me and Varun, what we did was we did a focus group with students from BHU. There's some 15, 16 girls who volunteered. Thankfully, because Varun is an alum, it helped. And we did a proper focus group where we asked them questions. And to our surprise, that so many people, they were from various colleges and various models, Patna, Ranchi, and all these people. And it was refreshing to know that all of them admitted to have gotten off on porn. And I got a morality check from my own self, because I had this thing that not many, and we realized that depression is so much that we don't understand, we men don't understand it. And hence a course correction is required.
Like with Vikram, I always felt that he'll probably come out as too nice, and so I was very confident that these little slights that we have put na, ki how does Diya Mirza's character afford this car, or why do women drive, or how his mother, his wife, and a maid, he needs an army of 3 women to service him every bloody morning, and all he is doing is getting up, going for a bath, wearing his clothes, eating and leaving. Just for this, he needs a full service department at home, and he is just taking for granted. So Sir said, okay, this will come out. We don't have to make him even more, patriarchal or feudal or any of that. So that is something that we were considering how the perception is going to land, from that is where these conversations are coming from. But they remain to this much level. Otherwise, what happens is you get confused with what you are wanting to say and eventually what it becomes. Because then you're thinking too much about how it's going to land.
The only commitment is to the storytelling. And I feel stories are the only way, right now left with, which can create a non-confrontational space for any kind of debate to happen. So मेरे लिए वो वही जरूरी है कि स्टोरी टेलिंग हो, एंड दैट्स व्हाट आई फील इन माय लिरिक्स आल्सो. आई ट्राई टू टेल अ स्टोरी. उस वजह से उसमें मैं ऐसे शब्द कई बार ला पाता हूँ क्योंकि उसमें कहानी होती है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है.
Well, I think a writer needs to develop greater flexibility with respect to the vocabulary they choose, given the fact, given the purpose and the goal of what they want to say or do. I think the goal informs the craft.
I mean, thanks to my writer Samir Gautam, he actually went to the family. He met them a number of times, and only when he felt they were ready to meet me, he shielded me from them. Because they were very hesitant. The mother, is a very conservative Muslim. So she said, we don't even have pictures of Shahid because it's considered haram. So, to think of a film on him was very tough. So ultimately, I went to meet his mother to get her final permission. When she met me, she again went into denial. She said, no, how will you make it? मेरे बेटा, लोग उसको gangster बुलाते ये वो. So I had to have multiple conversations after that with her and convince her. And luckily, his brother was invested. He believed that I was making the film for the right reasons. I mean, you should make the film for the right reasons. It cannot be if they feel that you're being exploitative. If you're making a commercial film, then offer them commercial terms that are lucrative enough. After all, you're exploiting that person's life for your commercial gains. Here, all I could promise them, I said, I don't have money to make the film. I was very honest with them. I said, I don't have money to make the film, but I promise you people will see Shahid as me for what he is. All these things that you're telling me, I'm hoping that I can remove those half-truths from people's minds. I can change people's minds about your son.
When I write like biopics, for example, it's where or you adapt something which has which exists as part of history or is a real issue, and you're adapting it for a feature for drama, and you're dramatizing it. What I do give myself often the liberty of creatively dramatizing what the emotional journey of the character may have been, so that it is very satisfactory at a consumption level, at the level of viewing, that it becomes a more universal experience and feels like truth, or is experienced like truth when someone watches it as a human experience. I do check all my facts that they belong to the universe of the subject that I'm creating, and none of them are anachronistic or off or politically at conflict with the story that I'm creating. But at the same time, it's not necessary that everything that happened from cradle to grave to the subject or the person who I am adapting the life of, now I am somehow incumbent to replicate it exactly for how it happened in the film. So I do take creative liberties.
I made a show on Harshad Mehta, which is based on a book. So you must be clear about the source. Either you have the life rights from the family, or it should be from a published work in the public domain, and take names only of those people who are mentioned in that public domain document. Everything else, dramatize it. That is like the thumb rule while making a unauthorized biography.
For an industry that is now suddenly waking up to writing is boss, people don't read. We have very, very few people who actually read what is, handed to you. It's very difficult to get your full draft read, and the only time you stand a better chance is if your first 5 or first 10 pages are seriously different. you know uh, it's that off chance that your script is lying there. You literally have to think of it like that your script is lying in this office, okay, and some executive someday has realized that their meeting is cancelled and they want to step out for a smoke, but they've run out of cigarettes and there is nobody else to bum a cigarette from. Okay, and they're like, dude, what do I do? My phone is also charging, can't even be on my phone. My laptop is having its own issues. I'm really run out of things I couldn't do. And I'm like, oh, there is a script there. And they will pick it up and they will read the first 5 pages. And if those pages don't hook them in this miraculous window that your script has found, okay, then this miraculous window has been wasted by you. It's literally that precarious. Don't feel disheartened. It has a weird way of working out. If you just keep trying and be persistent, it does.
Taking part in a lab, applying for a grant, it's all very useful because what you get is mentorship, and and that is very, very helpful. It really helps you grow. It helps you look at your own material differently. Script lab is very useful. That whole NFDC Film Bazaar. I don't know how it is now, but when I was there, I went there for many years. Like, I was part of the first time was for the screenwriters lab. The second time I was part of the co-production market, and the third year I was there. Lipstick even did the editing lab. So we took the edit of the film and we reworked it with inputs from editors around the world. So I think that's called the work in progress lab. So I feel like these labs really help me and really help the film. But I think that these labs really help you as a filmmaker because you just, you learn how to take feedback that works for you, learn how to look at your own material. So definitely, I think that's something that I would totally encourage everyone to do.
So there were I think 3-4 years ago, there were at least 7 labs, writers labs in India, and they were good and they were quite affordable also for young writers. In fact, I think a couple of them even paid a kind of paid a stipend or something. So बहुत कम हो गई हैं, तो अब जनरली भी लैब्स की बहुत कमी है, मेंबरशिप बहुत कमी है.
A lot of writers I know, including me sometimes, just want to go with an imaginative flow of where we are. Like, so the idea is to just quickly put down a line of how the story is flowing out to you. But then it's important. The second important integral step for any artist is to then kind of foolproof this with research, or pad it, or accentuate it, or deepen this of what you've done, or to completely dismiss it. Because if the research is saying a certain saying that a certain imaginative flair that you may have gone into is possibly not sitting right, I think it is completely okay to let go of it.
So always start small. Always, मैं जो भी राइटर मेरे पास आते हैं, बहुत सारे यंग राइटर्स के मैसेज आते हैं, मैं सबको 2-3 चीजें बोलता हूँ. पहला ये कि सबसे पहले मुझे एक 5 पेज की शॉर्ट फिल्म लिख के भेजो, उससे ज्यादा मत भेजो. सीधे वो 25 पेज की शॉर्ट फिल्म आती है, कई लोग पूरी स्क्रिप्ट भेजते हैं. और 5 पेज की भी तब भेजो जब पहले 1 साल काम कर लो. जो मैं तुमको बता रहा हूँ वो काम ये है कि 1 साल में 200 फिल्में देखो, 50 नॉवेल पढ़ो और हर रोज कम से कम 1000 वर्ड्स लिखो. सो बेसिकली 1 साल में 36,000 वर्ड्स लिखो, 50 नॉवेल पढ़ो, 200 फिल्में देखो, एक शॉर्ट फिल्म लिखो 5 पेज की जो 6 महीने बाद लिखो, और उसको हर 3 महीने पे रिवाइज करो. थर्ड रिवीजन के बाद 1 साल बाद मुझे वो भेजो, प्लस वो लिस्ट ऑफ फिल्म भेजो जो तुमने देखी है, उसको एक डायरी में लिखो. सो these are all discipline, whatever measures I tell people, but the focus is on don't rush in and don't kind of waste your energies into some hoping for some miracle or something.
Here you have to make the cold calls, you have to bother people, you have to get through in a crowd and trust your script and say, okay, this is it. And you have to have honed your talent enough up to that point where that first 5-10 pages jump, because nothing can beat that. No amount of recommendations from your chacha, from your anybody can beat those 10 pages jumping at you.
Your ground, be at it and continue, like, and it's not like if you write one film and that's not getting made, then the thing is that you have to keep doing it, like have 2-3 scripts, keep doing new stuff. Don't be close to, like, you may be pitching for A thing, someone else might recommend that would you like to do B. Don't be close to sort of doing things either.
Purely speaking about stories which come, which emanate from political / issue-based themes, because it's very important that you get it right, especially if you're really peddling someone else's narrative forward. It's very important that you are responsible with what you're saying.